listening to a special episode of Neocash Radio. In the studio with you, it's JJ. Today I'm interviewing Michael Wagner and Gabriel Allred. We're discussing the Cannabis Revolution powered by the Tokes Platform. It is a cannabis business and social movement using cryptocurrency and blockchain-based technologies to further cultural acceptance of marijuana legalization. Gabriel and Michael, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Thanks, JJ. Yeah, nice to be here. You actually caught us on a good day. We just had a really positive newsletter release. So, perfect.
Oh, excellent. What were some of the highlights from that release?
So several. I would say the top highlight is actually a spotlight on a new business strategic partnership we just engaged in with a company called Herbology Tours, based here in Las Vegas. And coincidentally, this is one of the business models that we were talking about engaging in when we were promoting our ICO. So fortunately, we had some relationships with people that were looking to get this started themselves. And the general premise is it's a tourism business targeting people visiting Las Vegas. And the shuttle will travel up and down the Las Vegas Strip, as well as to numerous dispensaries around town.
Wow.
Yeah,
that sounds amazing. That sounds like a really fun tour. We'll get more into that business and what you're developing, but I'd like to start at the beginning, if that's all right with both of you, and just get to know each of you briefly. And Gabriel, let's start with you. In fact,
sure.
So, how did you come up with this idea? Like, what's your background that led you to this, or sort of give me this sort of underpinnings of what led to the creation, and then we'll talk about the ICO, and then we'll talk about what's going on today.
Sure. Well, depends on how far back you want to go and how deep you'd like to go into my background. I guess more formally, in terms of my training and education, my background is in cognitive science with a little bit of data science and statistics rolled in. I'm a researcher sort of by trade. My dissertation works on behavioral economics, so decision-making under risk, which plays a large role in cryptocurrency. I've been working in the crypto space, trading, mining, blogging, etc., probably since about 2012, 2013. And Michael and I go pretty far back, and we got reacquainted a few years ago. I heard he was working in professional wealth management. I told him about this thing, Bitcoin. Mike sort of jumped on board with it very quickly, and he and I have been sort of working together on various crypto projects for the last few years. Both of us are cannabis advocates, and we saw this natural sort of synergy in the fact that the dispensaries don't have an easy banking solution for their income. So they're essentially operating entirely in cash, a lot of them keeping money in safes. We've heard stories ranging from, we're using our money and buying real estate, to we're buying precious jewels to reduce the footprint on the safe. We thought these are absurd solutions to just keeping your revenue from your legal business at this juncture, right? So we thought, well, cryptocurrency is a logical use case for this, and one that we'd yet to see implemented in the cannabis space. There's several companies trying to provide digital payment solutions. We're the first that's proposing a blockchain-based solution that's distributed, has redundancies built into the blockchain, et cetera, and we have a larger model around that.
Wow, excellent. Well, Michael, let's hear from you, and what was your start, and what led you to this? Obviously, Gabriel gave us a little background, but what can you fill in?
Yeah, not too much to elaborate on. He covered largely the inception of the project, but really our background's just going back a few years into blockchain. We've always been analyzing various opportunities and looking for a project that we could initiate ourselves that would contribute to the ecosystem. We also had a pretty deep interest in operating in the cannabis industry, primarily because of the potential for financial gain there. We see it as having tremendous growth potential. And it's obviously already demonstrated that when you go and look through some of the numbers, year over year growth numbers, they're just phenomenal. So, and then further, looking at the very issue that industry is facing, we just identified that blockchain is the perfect use case implementation to help solve that problem.
Right.
And I would just go further to say that it's not strictly a Tokes Platform, related issue that we believe can help resolve this. It's we're pushing for the greater adoption of digital currencies in that particular purpose across the board. So,
right. Yeah, not have all your eggs in one basket. But yeah, it's so you basically have two parts here. Excuse me. And you have the Cannabis Revolution and the Tokes Platform. But let's start with the Cannabis Revolution, and let's delve into that right now. What are you referring to when you say the Cannabis Revolution?
So that specifically is the social movement that we're seeing right now in the United States with the legalization at the state level. Right. And which encompasses probably 75% of the U.S. in one form or another now, whether it's recreational adoption, medical adoption, or just some form of decriminalization.
So, like the community that surrounds the movement, basically.
Absolutely. And Gabe might want to add on to this, but the reality is we think that the industry as a whole, if it's going to grow, needs to improve to an extent the image that's associated with it. So it's not, we'd like to enhance the image, because it's not necessarily just a bunch of basement dwelling stoners that are sitting on a couch and not doing anything productive. I have a lot of associates that are professionals that consume cannabis regularly, and guess what? It's not to the detriment of their ability to function day to day. So we just think that we can improve the image of cannabis and help it become more mainstream, socially acceptable. So that's kind of what the Cannabis Revolution is about.
Excellent.
Right.
Do you want to add to that, Gabriel?
Yeah, I have a little bit to add there. We're really seeing a paradigm shift regarding the normalization and acceptance of cannabis. Right, alcohol has been normalized for well over a century, barring prohibition era legislation and the like. But we're really seeing not only your basement dwelling stoners, as Mike put it, engaging in recreational use, but now you're seeing ranges of products targeting soccer moms, those with healthy lifestyles, using it for not only recreational purposes or to get high, but rather to better one's lifestyle. That's not something you see with other sort of vice industries like tobacco or alcohol. Cannabis can be beneficial in other life-changing ways, and from that, I think we're going to see more acceptance of other types of psychoactive agents. Who knows? 5 years from now, we might see lax prohibition on something like psilocybin or whatever. So these are revolutionary ideas that are beginning to take hold at legislative levels.
Now, see, this is really interesting to know, because as Neocash Radio, we cover a lot of different blockchains, and very few of them have a community aspect that is such a large spoke in the wheel, if you will. There's a few come to mind. Dogecoin, of course, was based around a community, but
right.
You're more of like aligning with what's going on globally and of course locally, and just sort of trying to not only piggyback off that, but expose people to alternative, decisions they can make, whether it's crypto or whatnot. Let me get into so that your Tokes platform, and there's a lot of different pieces to this. And I want to start out with the ground floor and talk about the products and services. So you're looking to create a brick and mortar facility and storefront. Tell us about that.
And if I can just take a real quick step back just on the social movement aspect of it. Not only do we want to, we don't necessarily want to piggyback off of it. We actually want to spearhead it. And both in the cannabis space and in the blockchain space, we think it's incredibly important to expose society to the technology that blockchain brings, and also to the medical and personal benefits people can see through consumption of cannabis. So,
are you organizing on Slack, or are you organizing somewhere, or is there some place people can go to get in touch with helping this happen? Or
we have a very active Slack community. People can find the link on our website. We're pretty active on social media as well, Twitter, Instagram, but we'd really like users to join our Slack and have the discussion with us. We get a lot of interesting crypto as well as cannabis related discussion in the general chat.
Excellent.
Yeah, right, and as you just said, we do have a complex business model with a lot of initiatives underlying it. So we're a very small team, and we don't have significant resources behind us, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a bit as we get into the success of the ICO. But we're certainly looking for people in the community that can come and contribute to the project. And so my point is, we're not necessarily able to focus on each one of these individual initiatives every single day. We kind of pick and choose best use of time, but certainly something that we're targeting.
Well, if you want, let's before we get to the brick and mortar, why don't we just talk about the Tokes transaction protocol featuring the Tokes token on top of the Waves platform. Let's talk about the ICO. So you had the ICO. When did you have it? Was it received and whatnot?
I think that's it went well, all things considered. So in hindsight, hindsight's always 20/20. But in hindsight, it turns out that we should have done a significant level of marketing in preparation for the ICO. We kind of approached this from a more conventional, at least in our minds, conventional approach, which was just to announce it on Bitcoin Talk. I think we gave the community a 10-day lead time and continue to promote the ICO throughout almost specifically and entirely through Bitcoin Talk. So we did have some significant partners that came on throughout the process. Brave New Coin, notably, and Fran Strainer over there. They were pivotal to helping us accomplish the levels that we did accomplish. But ultimately, I think we could have raised significantly more if we were able to spread the message wider and had we taken more time to promote in advance. But that said, we still have a very dedicated and close-knit community as a result of being, a slightly smaller capital raise. And not something that I'm disappointed about. We raised close to $100,000, which in seed round capital, that's actually pretty successful. But we end up comparing ourselves to some of the latest ICOs that were run this year. And when you see people raising $5 million or $30 million or $150 million, it's pretty incredible.
It's really shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very shocking that much money is going into some of these, and in more in some cases. So that that's a lot of ICOs happening, and it's like, oh well, we could have done something. And one thing I was thinking of was like the Bancor. They were like, oh well, we should have just kept offering this buy sell thing, and the ICO doesn't end, but we have a buy wall. And if you're not happy with it, we'll buy it back at the same price we sell it. There's a lot of different things going on there. But let's get into Tokes. So you have this token. How is it working with the Waves platform? What's your experience been with that?
I'd say our experience has been mostly positive. They're a newer team. I'd say they're still under the radar. A lot of people ask us, why didn't you use Ethereum? Well, Waves was targeting a lot of the features that we wanted. Fiat gateways. We're dealing with a transactional mechanism targeting the cannabis industry. So one of the things we need is an ease of access. That is, can we get USD to or into Tokes, basically? Can you purchase it with Tokes? Waves has already made significant progress on that. They've got a great iOS app as well as Android app, something you don't typically see for alternative cryptocurrencies. So our experience has been largely positive, and we're working closely with the team to utilize the rudiments of their mobile app to build out ours with a little more robust features and the like.
Yeah. So you mentioned a bunch of features, the industry integration, some of the things that you want to do with the Tokes, the actual token and the blockchain aspect of this multi-spoked plan of yours. Asset pegging and anonymous transactions and stuff rolling out in the future, all interesting things. The asset pegging is one of those difficult ones. I'm like, how are you going to solve that problem of actually getting it to peg? But, there's a variety of solutions out there. I don't know, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, Waves is going to be, again, incremental to us being able to accomplish that. And the mechanism itself is really not that difficult. So, I would like to compare what we intend to implement to USD Tether. And in fact, I might just go straight to USD Tether. But if we want to operate entirely within the Waves ecosystem as an asset on top of that chain, we can already accomplish asset pegging through their Waves BTC or Waves USD subtokens. So. Okay. The essence is that, if a merchant accepts a specific amount of Tokes for a purchase, those Tokes ultimately move back into Waves BTC, they move into Waves USD, and now they sit in a Waves wallet, fully asset-backed, by the way. So this is not a forced peg mechanism whatsoever. Fully asset-backed, dollar for dollar, with $1 in USD for every $1 that the merchant has in their wallet. And so when they're ready to move those assets back out of the blockchain, then it's just a simple reverse process from the mechanism that led it into there. So if it was from Tokes to Waves BTC to Waves USD, you reverse that, and then you ultimately end up with the ability to withdraw those in real USD. Right. The single obstacle we still have, and it's less of an obstacle for us as much as it is for the actual merchants and the dispensaries in this case, is that if they would like to liquidate their digital currency assets, they're still going to need a bank account at some point to be able to move those assets back into personal holdings. Right. Now they might be fully comfortable holding Bitcoin as an asset and spending Bitcoin, which is still technically feasible as of today. But at the end of the day, they're probably going to need to find a way to get that cash back out of the system, and it's a problem that we're still trying to find the exact solution for ourselves.
Right. So the fiat on-ramps, that's something you mentioned previously. That's an important part of the situation here. What's the status on that?
So that's still a work in progress there. That one requires MSB registration at both the federal level, and then ultimately you need to be registered individually in each of the 50 states each of the states that you operate in. So you potentially have licensing fees through all 50 states if we determine at some point that we're going to exist in all of those states. And just receiving your MSB registration is difficult in and of itself. It's a very rigorous application process, and they want to know, obviously, what your business operates in. So we would technically be a money transmitter business, and we've got some legal looking into how we can achieve this. So it's something, again, that's work in progress, but I would put that as a longer term objective of ours versus more immediate.
Sure. So what's the right now? What are you guys focusing on at this moment? What's the the latest efforts and like updates besides what you talked about earlier with that tour? What else is going on with the Tokes platform?
Well, a couple of things. So one, we're actually working on a rebrand of the entire website, the token, as well as some sort of brands that we have underneath the umbrella. One being Sport Canna, which is a line of sport nutrition products that we're working on as part of the whole revenue model, which includes herbology tours. So some of the proceeds from those, we're still figuring out the mechanism for that, will be put back into the Tokes ecosystem, thus sort of boosting the price up of Tokes on the open markets. But we're working on that rebrand. From that, there's a couple of partnerships that we have in the works right now that we can't talk too explicitly about, but our branding will be encompassing some aspects of that and building out the larger technological aspects of the platform, namely point-of-sale system, mobile app. We're also in the process of beta testing our actual transactional platform right now. So part of the benefit of the tour is that tours on the stops or dispensaries on the stops of the tour will be accepting Tokes. So someone pays their fee for the herbology tour. The tour guide tells them, whip out your phone, we're going to send you some Tokes. This is cryptocurrency. They give them a brief little introduction on what crypto is, why it's useful to the cannabis industry. And then along their tour, both as transactional means for them, they can buy $20 worth of cannabis product using Tokes. It also helps us in testing the actual ease of transactability of our token and seeing how it integrates with the existing point of sale and inventory control systems of the dispensaries that will be utilizing it. So those are our major focuses right now. We are trying to promote adoption of our token. Something I can't say is always present in a lot of these projects. A lot of them are vaporware. I'm going to be vague about that. We know who they are, but right. We're really trying to push adoption here. So those are our main focuses throughout the next quarter anyway. Then we have some larger goals. Maybe Mike wants to elaborate a little more on what's
the only thing that I really do want to add, and this is something that we did touch on in the newsletter today, is a merchant gateway. So we've temporarily sidelined the development on our mobile application, and The primary reason for that is that a lot of the functionality that would be available through a mobile app that we develop is already accessible to the market. So first and foremost, Waves has a mobile application that they released that is available through both iOS and Android. Something it's quite challenging for these mobile wallets to get on the iOS store generally. So the fact that they're on there is huge for us. That they've already accomplished that. So the transactability of Tokes on the Waves chain, along with integration with a form of POS directly at the dispensary, that's already possible. So we'd be kind of spinning our wheels and recreating the wheel if we had a mobile app that did that. Now the dispensary locator, you can use things like weed maps, and for the cannabis strain database, that's a Leafly type functionality. So if it's already out there, we just figured, hey, why don't we focus our attention on something that's going to be more beneficial to the project? And that is the merchant gateway. So the merchant gateway is intended to facilitate the ease of processing transactions at dispensaries. One obstacle we immediately identified is that we are a floating value token. And so if somebody wants to make a purchase with Tokes at a dispensary, there's no easy way right now for the dispensary to say, well, you have to pay me X amount of Tokes for this $100 purchase. Right. So our merchant gateway is going to make all of those calculations for you on the back end, and it's going to simply report a value that the cashier can immediately tell to the customer, and then the transaction takes place. Once the transaction is confirmed in the wallet, then then that transaction is complete. We'll further go on and have the portfolio allocation portion of that, and or the conversion into the asset pegged asset all occur on the back end within that merchant gateway. So if a dispensary only wants to hold cash assets, even though they're accepting Tokes, it'll automatically make that conversion on the back end. If they're comfortable holding 50% Tokes, 25% Bitcoin, and 25% cash, it can also do that automatically on the back end. So that's where we're allocating some time right now in terms of technical development, where we see it can really benefit our partners at the industry level and ease the adoption on the project. And then I would, Gabe alluded to one project we can't discuss due to NDA, but I will say that it is what we can release is that it's supply chain oriented, and so we're talking about a much bigger than the cannabis industry itself, but worldwide supply chain management type aspect to our project that we're looking at getting integrated.
Well, excellent. It sounds like you're building a lot of different technologies on top of the Waves platform and with the Tokes transaction protocol, which is awesome. I mean, it's another difference between. I mean, a lot of these ICOs or now these new startups, it's very shaky on what they're actually doing. I'm just being real with you here. Yeah. Let me just. So you mentioned the tours in Las Vegas, and so is most of what you're looking at right now focused on Nevada? Is that right?
Yes, entirely Las Vegas for now.
Okay, and so they just recently had their legalization. How was that? What was? Just give me a brief moment. What was that like in Nevada?
Do you want to take this, Mike? It was pretty crazy. I'd say it's still crazy. They just went into effect July 1st. I'm not sure if you've seen the news lately. I know Vice did a nice little piece on it, and it's been making a lot of the regular cannabis outlet headlines that Nevada has a marijuana shortage right now, a crisis, if you will. So the cultivators basically can't fulfill the public needs. It's a little bit hyperbolic. The dispensaries I've been into in the last couple of weeks, they're not completely shy of weed. They may not have the particular strain you're looking for, but it's certainly there. But we're generating a lot of tax revenue at the state level. It seems to be going smoothly. Some of the legislative and compliance measures implemented in Nevada, I'd say, are a little more scrutinous than, say, California, for example. And as such, it took a while to get rolling here, but everything's been smooth since July 1st. And we're hoping to sort of bank on the back of that. There's going to be more dispensaries being built. Obviously, there's the demand is exceeding the availability right now, and we could see them quickly needing some of our the solutions that we're providing via the transactional protocol, as well as the cash on-ramping in the coming months to years. So it's going great, to succinctly answer your question. Yeah.
And I would just add on there, so I had my medical card before we went full rec here July 1st, and man, what a change in the environment, I guess, when you walk into a dispensary. And I think it's honestly for the better, particularly for the industry. But when I would go in with my med card, I was the only guy in the lobby. I got right in, VIP. I think I had 2 or 3 bud tenders always available to answer any questions I had and just to chat with. Man, now you walk into these dispensaries and you're in the waiting room for 10 or 15 minutes. Then you get inside and there's a whole group of people just standing around and they're waiting to get to talk to a bud tender. So just an amazing change of pace almost instantly when that rec went into effect.
Yeah, so it's a great time to be doing this stuff in Nevada right now, and you're interacting with some of these dispensaries and whatnot. What's your general take on some of these dispensaries' reaction to crypto? To you're selling them on Tokes. What's the general reaction like?
Do you want to take this, Mike? Or
yeah, so they're enthusiastic about it. I would say they're open to it. The hesitations we've gotten so far is just that they're, especially right now, so incredibly busy that they don't really have a lot of time to discuss how we would integrate the technology with them. And then the second aspect of that is going to be the educational challenge that we knew would be present. So teaching everybody, both in the business, how to utilize the technology, how it benefits them, and also teaching their customers how to utilize it, which, again, we're looking at driving through things like our tour, where we can, as part of the tour package, you receive $20 worth of Tokes. And it's to them, psychologically, it's free money. They would be foolish not to download the app and take this free money on their phone and then spend it in the dispensary. So we feel like once we can get people to initiate making transactions with crypto, it's going to be that much easier in the future to have them purchasing Tokes for use in dispensaries as well. So I think we're encouraged by the fact and enthusiastic that they do want to use the tech. It's just a matter of timing for us right now.
Right. I'll add a little to that too. And this is sort of a broader comment on the cannabis industry as a whole. We're kind of seeing this intersection of cultivators that have maybe decades of experience in cannabis cultivation, but are very old school or legacy in their sort of mindset towards the technology. They're not interested in cryptocurrency. Conversely, you have a group of new money coming in, a lot of younger investors that are all on board with disruptive technology, innovative financial technology that solves their problems. So if they're already familiar with cryptocurrency, usually they're excited at the idea, oh, you're targeting the cannabis industry, your whole model is to solve banking solutions for us, that's great. If they have no understanding of cryptocurrency, there's usually a hurdle to education there at the ownership or middle management level, depending on who we're speaking with. So there's some interesting sort of, I guess, personality types in this space as it is.
Sure. Now, we have covered on Neocash many times the banking issues faced by legal weed sellers in Washington State and Colorado and other places around the country. As far as cannabis and banking is concerned in Nevada, is that a problem yet, or are they able to find banks that still accept them as customers?
Do you want to answer that one, Mike, or do you want me to say?
Largely, just it's still an issue, yes.
Okay.
All of the interactions and conversations I've had lead me to believe that it's still an issue.
Right. And so that's, it's like this honeypot is sitting there, it's the money and the cannabis is sitting in the same place, and it's a really big security risk. So crypto is so great in that you don't even have to store your wallet on site. It's amazing.
Exactly. And that's part of our sort of goal is to educate the owners and operators as to how that's going to work as well. So it's not about us taking the cash and on-ramping it into our accounts and then storing the crypto. It's let us cash on-ramp for you, and then let's give the private keys to you. Let's show you how to manage and secure your wallets. Let's get you competent with cryptocurrencies so you can transact in the space, and then potentially transact business to business with, say, your cultivator or your extraction lab that's also adopted our technology. And to your point, the honeypot of keeping the cash in the safe, a month or two prior to recreational coming into play here, there was a medical dispensary that was held up by stick-up men and cleared out the safe. I mean, it's not terribly sophisticated to send a couple of armed individuals into a cannabis dispensary and stick up the bud tenders. And this will be an increasing vulnerability and security problem as just more cash flows in. And as of yet, the problem hasn't been solved by any conventional banking measures. Credit unions aren't accepting the cash. There's not a lot of solutions here in Nevada yet.
Well, and look at the difference, the outlay that you have with hiring security, the cameras, the window protectors. I mean, all these different things. You're paying out thousands and thousands of dollars just to buy both physical security and human security, and it's like all because of the problem with the banks. It seems like a big money pit that businesses are going to end up throwing money into.
And one issue we haven't even touched on yet is the fee aspect of how the industry is currently managing a transition out of cash. Now they've got some avenues. They're creative. They're not necessarily stuck entirely in cash. We've talked to people who they're working with hedge funds to identify methods to move that cash into other alternative assets. But guess what? The fees associated with that transition are upwards of 10% or 15%. We're talking about introducing a solution that costs them nothing. And in fact, the fees cost 0.2 of 1 cent per transaction. So, you're talking about going from 10 or 15% transaction fees to zero. That's that much more money that your business retains by not having to worry about transitioning it in through one of these other creative methods.
All right. Well, I'd like to wrap up and talk about one more sort of wing that we touched on at the beginning, but we haven't really gotten too much, which is your consumer advocacy arm that you mentioned in the white paper and the website. Now, I understand that your Cannabis Revolution community interaction is sort of basically playing a part in that. But what's sort of what's the plans for that? What would you like the dream plan going forward for that?
I'd say the ultimate dream plan is to have a full nonprofit organization that's basically working within Nevada as well as other states that we can eventually touch base in to promote cannabis advocacy, cannabis legalization, etc. We're getting to that point already. We're sort of working with feet on the ground. We attend a lot of local cannabis advocacy events here in town. We've been reaching out to legislators at the state level as of now, hopefully nationally as we grow. But the grand idea here is to have this business side of the Tokes Platform and then a full advocacy wing that's dedicated just to promoting cannabis legality, cannabis acceptance, as well as cryptocurrency. We're also advocates for that. We think it's a positive, disruptive force in our economy.
Excellent. Yeah, and you also mentioned lobbying. That seems like a big undertaking. As I think I mentioned, right. Audacious to get into that sort of field, as well as all of the other areas that you're focused on. I mean, you guys have a hell of a job ahead of you, that's for sure.
Right, and
we don't expect to change the world overnight. Yeah, we don't expect to change the world overnight, but these are long-term goals of ours.
Oh, that's great. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to me about this, and I hope my listeners appreciate it as well. And please tell us where they can find you and how to get in contact with you.
Great. They can check us out at tokesplatform.org. They can join us on our Slack. There's a link on our website for that. Interact with us on Twitter at Tokes Platform, Instagram, Tokes Platform, Facebook, etc. And we hope to hear from some new users interested in our project.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Mike and Gabriel. Or Michael.
Thank you, JJ.
Yeah, thanks very much. Appreciate the time. It's great to be on the show.
You're listening to Neocash Radio. Check out our website at neocashradio.com. Tune in every week for more episodes, bonus specials, and interviews. Neocash Radio.